edition of 7Anubis Aquatics. We're happy to have you here. I've always wanted to do a fish room tour. I know here on YouTube it seems a little obligatory to do one, but I'm going to do one anyway. We'll try to keep it into little parts so you guys don't get disinterested with a 2-hour video. I don't really want to make a movie. We'll make 3 or 4 parts of this fish room / fish gallery tour. I suppose it's really the gallery part, more as opposed to a fish room, but we'll call it whatever we really want to, I suppose. Anyway, here's part 1. Let's go. So these are old school 55 standard size 55-gallon tanks, rimmed. I have a fair amount of rim tanks actually, because I've been doing this for so long that I've kind of collected more of those over the years than not. Nice smattering of plants. I really think this tank looks sharp. The rainbow minnows and these white tetras really make it look sharp too. Quite a variety of plants. You can see all the nearite snail eggs all over my glass. I didn't scrape those off, but overall I really like this tank, and the water quality in here is fantastic. I actually use salty shrimp RO water in this tank. It's probably a little hard to see on camera here, but there are a fair amount of shrimp in this tank. It was originally my original shrimp tank, and probably had a couple hundred shrimp in it before we moved locations. And we set up this new gallery, but quite a few of them made it. A lot of them are just wild, and they're not exactly for sale or anything else, but I really like them, so we keep them anyway. So this is the other 55-gallon tank on the right. Another one of my favorites, really. I know I've said that a couple times, but they really are. I've had some amazing success with the plants in this tank. I mean, look at this guy in the middle. I mean, I'm not sure I've ever seen one so large. This one kind of primarily has a lot of red colored fish in it, so amber tetras. I've got some mosquitoes in there, rasboras, 3 or 4 others. Some really pretty snails, but
mostly I really like is the plants in this tank. A little wild. I do, in this tank, leave just a little bit of algae growing on this wood. Most of the time it looks really nice actually. It kind of moves in the wind. I just cleaned it up, but I think a little bit of algae can actually add to your scape and make it look really sharp as well. Alright, we're on to the next aquarium tank, Aquascape. This one really isn't a scape per se, and has really been a home for some guppies that we have, and some really nice looking snails. That's really all that's in here, and needs a little bit of maintenance. It's got a little bit of algae. It's got some neat hair algae, as you can see on the heater and the heater cord over here. Pretty fantastic. What I really like about this tank and some of the others though is this Finex light, which has a 24-hour cycle thing on it. A relatively inexpensive light, however it does a fantastic job. It really does. I mean, the plant growth in here is phenomenal, allowing it to have a natural daylight nighttime cycle. Right next to that is just a plant reservoir tank. Right now, this will end up being my wife's new project. It's 36 inches long, I want to say 18 inches deep. So a really long, not super deep tank, but she's got some really cool ideas. I won't spoil it for you, but we'll get into that tank a little bit more on another episode. But I wanted you to see the Batman tank here, mostly. I don't think I've ever had hair grass actually grow like this. I mean, just phenomenal growth. And I've cut some off, so what you see over here of the hair grass over here is from this tank. And it's growing so good and so quickly that I can actually save some back for other purposes. So we moved on to the next one, and this is one we just call the green tank. And I think you can see why. This is now home to a pretty large population of guppies. They pretty much self-maintain over time, but I really kind of wanted to get all my guppies in one spot. We have some really pretty ones. We'll do some close-ups here in a minute. But I also don't believe I've ever had Amazon sword, which is the majority of the plant that you see in here, the big, tall plants, grow so well. Don't know what I'm doing right, but I'm doing it right, I think, because I've got all kinds. Now, this tank actually could probably use a cleaning, get some of the mulm off of the bottom, a little bit of algae touch-up, but overall, looking pretty good. And it also has one of those Finex lights on it, which I am currently really digging on. Also have some immersed plant on this guy with some philodendron in there, which has huge roots going down the back on the left there, you can see. Alright, now we'll do some close-up shots of the tanks we already saw. This is the 55 on the left, the dark tank, although I wouldn't say it's exactly dark. There's all the snail eggs. I don't know if any of the shrimp are going to be super visible right now. If I see any, I'll zoom in on them. There's a guy right there. There's a red one. You see him in there. It's a nice looking shrimp. There's a plico in there too, so I hadn't usually hides up under here. But there are quite a few. this is the tank on the right. Nice close up. I should probably trim that plant up a little bit. Plant it down further in. These guys are really doing fantastic. Some really nice looking plants going on in here. It does have a touch of algae, but like I said, some of the algae is actually on here for aesthetics, honestly. I think it looks really sharp. So for those of you who think you can't have algae in your scape, well, you're wrong. The substrate on this is actually just sand and does really fantastic with a lot of these plants. I do add root tabs. They're actually not the API branded ones. Nothing wrong with those. I just here lately have been using some different ones. It's probably my biggest Anubias plant that I have. It's a little misleading. We'll see it better from the top. And some Bacopa. And some really pretty fish. These are the kind of tanks you can just stare at all day long. Uh-oh. Some of our guppies must think. So this is the green tank, doing a little close-up work. See, it does need a little algae work done on it. I don't really have terrible amounts of algae in here, or real bad algae problems. I probably could use some let's back this out just a little bit. Let's see the crazy amount of guppies we've got going in here. There's so many, it's really a little hard to see, but some of them are fantastically pretty. You just have to get them to get into the light at the right time with all these guys. It's a little hard. Some of them are not technically guppies either, they're endlers. Basically the same fish to me, but little cleanup work maybe, but another fantastic tank with some amazing plant growth. And so you may have noticed these. So that is a CO2 bell. I'm using passive CO2 instead of using a regulated system. I just fill this bell up once a day with CO2 and it disperses over time throughout the day and gives it just that little bit of CO2 boost that some of your plants might want. Now we're back over to the Batman tank. Just a phenomenal amount of growth. This tank almost self-regulates. A nice looking trumpet snail back here who apparently has some near-eyed snail friends who are laying eggs all over him. It's probably like a snail joke. Some near-eyed trumpets, ram's horn snails, helping keep everything clean. Here's the beard hair algae growing over here. It actually looks kind of neat. Now this will be a home for some shrimp soon. And I'm not sure which kind yet, but we'll get an update on this tank as soon as we drop in some shrimp.